Hello, are you pregnant? Today's show is perfect for you. We are discussing birth plan essentials and the importance of preparation during pregnancy. I am joined, as usual, by the very wonderful Dr. Robyn Thompson, and she would like to start by talking to you a little bit about the language surrounding the term birth planning. Go ahead, Robyn, and hello.
Thank you, Chelsea. Look, I just prefer to use language that is not off-putting and like a lot of things, language has been a set language has been around for a long time. And then suddenly there's changes happening and we need to be gentle and ease into it for everybody concerned, the mothers and the professionals. So I like to talk about that it's our preferences, a mother's preference, and it's a guide to help her talk with her professionals, the people that are going to be caring for her, if that's what she chooses. So again, it's just a language thing with me. So, birth
You were
plan sounds
saying,
a bit abrupt, whereas a preparation does sound it's a personal preparation really, because each mother's unique. So she'll look at the preparation in relation to her needs and how she feels. And then I'm hoping that will help the professionals have a better understanding without feeling maybe they're being, persuaded to do things that they might not want to do.
yeah, and it is a tricky one actually, because normally
Yeah.
we hear stories quite often, don't we, of women approaching their healthcare provider with their birth plan, with their guide, with their preferences. And we're always told, things never go to plan. And then there's all these negative associations with it, when actually birth planning, looking at your birth preferences is more than just setting a plan. It's understanding and researching and learning your preferences and knowing
Yeah.
what to do in unexpected circumstances. It's not so much about following a rigid plan. And that's why I like
Yeah.
your change, I guess, on the language there, because it isn't just about having a plan. It might be about
Mm.
having 4, 5, 6 plans. It's about
Yeah.
understanding your preferences, and that is the importance of preparation.
Yeah.
Dr. Robyn, I know that recently you have been working on updating the birth plan preferences guide, the template that you have available in the Breastfeeding Club. I know you've been updating that to include some new things and new preferences that women and birthers may want to consider. I know which one is your main one that you want to discuss. Would you be able to talk about that now a little bit?
Whatever you're leading the way, babe.
Well, I know one that may not be, many women may not be aware of, the perineal bundle examination
Oh, the
following birth.
perineal bundle. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Mm. Well, there's been a paper on that from here, from Jai Allen and Nigel Lee. And I think it's probably worth having a look at that paper if people are interested. If they're not, then at least reading the abstract to have an idea of what it's about. But it is questioning what a group of people have come up with after 50 years down the track. There seems to be a 50-year turnaround of things. And way back in my early days, in my midwifery, pardon me, we used to do anal examinations with our finger, and none of us really wanted to do it. And in those days, it was more about feeling where the baby's head was. Well, we don't need to do that to women. And I feel very distressed that we've reintroduced that after such a long time. Now, the reason they're doing that is to say they can feel how the anus feels. They can feel the I might be using this in the exact words, but this is the gist of it, and that they can feel second and third degrees, the extent. Well, I would say from my experience with some of their very special people I worked with who were specialists over the years, they actually, if they were genuinely concerned about a woman's tear, first of all, we want to prevent it, right? We don't want those tears, we want to prevent them. So we look at the way the baby was born and what happened there. And also the leading up to it is someone standing over her telling her to push when that's not working with her structure of her body and the opening of her body and the opening of her pelvis in the moment. But what we do when we do all these things is we start to create more problems. And, can you imagine that every woman, regardless of how she gives birth to a baby is expected to have a digit in her anus, for someone to be putting their digit in their anus. So one of my guides, one of my helping with preferences will be to how to avoid that, because I don't think that is right. I think it's wrong. And if you read the latest research, you'll see why. The other thing that concerns me really badly is that how many people do that and know what the history of that woman might be for domestic or sexual abuse.
And that is
They
such
don't
a valid point, because it's not something you would often want to
know.
disclose at any of these appointments. And it's not something that is really something you're going to be wanting to discuss when you're focusing on the birth of your baby.
No.
And you said there, the key about that is the preparation, but actually being aware that that is a thing, because I remember you told me just a few weeks before I gave birth to Grace that this was a thing. And I remember being quite shocked, like, surely not, that's so old. But when
Every woman, but if they haven't felt that particular woman's anus before, or her rectum, the finger in her rectum, how do they know what the difference is?
Exactly.
They don't
That
know.
is a really good
They
point.
do feel where there is a tear and it's perforated, that might be different. But again, is that right for every woman to have that procedure done? So I will be writing, that'll be an additional thing I'll be writing in the birth preferences for women to make decisions on that themselves, for how they feel about it and what they need, and also not to be coerced into it by fear.
Yeah, well, that was actually my next point, which you've perfectly rooted me into there, is you talk a lot about the law of consent and talking about the examinations, vaginal examinations during, before labour, and then postpartum as well. So following birth, I was having my check after having given birth to Grace, and the lady, she used coercive language in the sense that she wasn't clear. So she didn't inform me about what she was about to do. And luckily I had spoken to you about it. And she said, I'm just going to check your bottom, darling. And it was said in the nicest way. I almost missed it, Robyn. And I remember thinking, Robyn mentioned that, and I said, "Oh no, I don't want an anal examination, thank you." She made a few comments about what she believes and why she thinks I should have it. And she was an old school midwife, and I declined, and that was that. She moved on. She wasn't impressed with my declaration of knowing what it was and not liking it. But hey, that was my choice to make, and I
It's
have
so
had it right to make
sensitive.
that. Mm?
It is so sensitive. Why
Mm.
are we doing these sensitive things to women? And it's not appropriate. And it's certainly not appropriate for all women.
No, and I
So
think the most inappropriate thing for us as a family here, when we witnessed that happen, Sam said she wasn't clear. And that's where the law of consent was actually a bit twisted, because you cannot consent to something that you're not aware of happening. So she wasn't very clear. And I think that when you taught me that, and in the education, in the program, I learned about consent more than I ever could have possibly understood elsewhere, because you have to understand to be able to make an informed decision, to be able to give consent. And that, I think, is a really important part of
absolutely, that is your
preparation.
legal right to make decisions and to sit down and talk, not for someone to stand over and talk over you and tell you, not for someone to have you sign a form 6 weeks before your baby's born or before to say that you agree to all these things. And in an emergency, we must say that by law, particularly here in Australia, but by law, the only one that can make decisions for you is the senior obstetric person. The surgeon or the obstetrician is the only one that can do that. Go ahead and make decisions. Anybody else cannot do that. The junior doctors, we call them the registrar and the resident, cannot do those things. And we need to, if women understand all that more, and they're like you with Sam, partners understand that, then they have much more say in what happens to their bodies.
Yeah.
So I just can't think of anything so unfair, so unreasonable, is expecting to put every woman to have a digit in her anus after she's given birth to her baby. That she should be in a joyous split second of moments in that time.
Yeah,
if
it's
the baby
definitely horrific.
score is 7 or more, she should not be.
I just cannot believe. I didn't believe that it was the thing again. I just could not believe it. And when she said it to me, and now since looking into it, since reading things that you've spoken about as well, It just blows my mind. So
Yeah, and if there
that
is a
they,
genuine tear, can I just finish off?
yeah, please do.
If there
Yeah.
is a genuine tear, then my responsibility would to be support the obstetrician and use the operating room with proper lighting,
Mm,
and even, just something to calm, or if they do need to, a light anaesthetic. I don't know what the anaesthetist would do there, but certainly not to put you to sleep. I don't know. She may have already had an epidural. Who knows? It
yeah.
depends on the
And that
circumstance. It's
And that
certainly
in
not.
itself, isn't it, is another topic. Tearing. It's one of the questions we always hear. It's one of
Yeah.
the fears that
Well,
women
that's
have.
the reason they're doing it. Yeah, and it's
But there
just
is new research to support how to prevent and aid the body in the natural physiological process, irrelevant of your birth journey, and if you've chosen to have pain relief, or if you have gone down the route of induction as well, depending on your route. The
the
research does support movement. Movement matters. It's important. Dr. Robbins talks
off
about this
your
so much.
sacrum. Off
Mm,
your sacrum
get off
is
your
so
back.
important. Well, it's not off your back because it is off your back, Robyn. The sacrum has to rise for the baby to come through the mid pelvis and around the curve of caries. The coccyx moves back. Everything is mobile to that unique woman's pelvis. No two pelvises are the same. The hips will rise, and if the woman can she will work hard. But and especially if it's her first baby, she'll probably be working harder because all those beautiful ligaments that are supporting all that have a memory the second and the third time. So they're likely to, move much faster than what they did the first time. How do we know? Each woman is unique. Each woman is individual. But
And
it
I
is
love the way you
very,
speak
very
about that with the
important.
pelvis. It's so
Yeah,
true.
the pelvis is so clever at what it does. It really is clever, and that sacrum has to rise. So someone's had an epidural, which is very high. Someone's had their membranes ruptured, and we've then altered the hydraulic pressure, and we've changed everything for her and her baby. She's not able to mobilise the same. And we have beautiful people here like Maha Malusa doing beautiful body movement and things for women to help them through those times. And I think that's happening everywhere, not just here, but and Maha is, part of a world group as well. They're helping women with that beautiful movement. So I think it
And
is
evidence
important.
does support it. There is so many
Yeah.
research papers. The evidence is unfolded, and you can read it yourself. You can have access to it.
Stop
Sarah Wickham's
rupturing
great.
membranes. Stop changing the hydraulic pressure. Stop doing these things to women's bodies unless it is absolutely and genuinely necessary.
Yeah.
And then you do it
And
with her consent.
that's clearly understanding what they're consenting to. And these are such important topics because these are huge considerations to make before you give birth, before you go into labor, things that you can discuss with your partner, like Robyn said. And actually, Dr. Robyn mentioned before about coached pushing. So someone standing over you, telling you when to push, how to push. It was blue-faced pushing. I think that's what it's referred to, wasn't it, Robyn? And I mean, talk a little bit about that and how you have 25 years experience working with
Well,
women at home. Tell us about the experience of difference, not being surrounded by the policies of hospital birth, and how free
well,
you are.
if you're the midwife with the woman, you can hear, you can see. She's communicating with you the whole time. Her body language changes, her facial expression changes, and she can give you amazing feedback. So there's no need to touch her body unless it's absolutely to her benefit to do so, and maybe at her request as well. That's the other way to look at it. But I think we have to take a step back, and we have to bring back midwifery in the way it is best approached, being with women. And some years ago now, the beautiful now deceased Beverly Beach in the UK, she was leading up the ARM, the Association Radical Midwives, and that started over here too, because back then women were fed up with what was happening and midwives were fed up. But she asked me if I would help her. So my help for her was that a television show in Ireland was showing this film. Did you see the film?
I remember you telling me about it, and
Oh,
it's
okay. So do you want me to continue or not?
please, yeah, please do tell the story for
And
those
this
who have
film
it.
was on the television, and it was two obstetric, obviously older doctors in the corner there. We imagine there are two young, I think two doctors, and there were two young people learning here. There's a rubber doll stretched out, and these two students at the top of their voice were screaming at this rubber doll. No sensory skills from the students or the rubber doll, and a little head starts to approach, and
What were
they're
they?
screaming,
What words were they screaming at her, Robyn?
"Wash! Wash!" at the
It's
top of their
horrific, isn't it?
voices.
It's horrific, and
Oh,
that's what they're educated to do.
well, I got such a shock when I saw that. I thought, no, I have a responsibility to explain to this television company that they are not participating in a reasonable way with this. This is not how mothers give birth to their babies. This is not how mothers are treated by students.
Well, we can
And
only
what are the
hope.
responsibility of the doctors in the dark corner over there? You know, it's
Well, I
just
hope
wrong.
that it was done for purposes of television, and that's not how.
Now, I wrote to the
But we
television.
unfortunately know share differently, don't we?
I wrote to the television station, and they withdrew it.
Oh,
I
well, there we
explained,
go. I did not
I,
know that part of the
I
story.
explained to them why and how I believed it was negligent. It was not the way women give birth. It's not the way the students learn. It's inappropriate to be showing that on television. It's inappropriate to be using it really for education because it was so outstandingly horrific. And Beverly Beach was so happy.
There you go. A bit of birth activism as well.
And bless her now. I hope she's up there being happy too, because, you know, she was wonderful in protecting and running things to make sure women were protected all the time. It was just
That's a
incredible.
really special story because it does go to show how quickly things, policies, procedures can change. And then the next generation of midwives, healthcare practitioners are going to be learning that. So those are some key things to consider. And like Dr. Robyn said, maybe be aware of the language and just know and encourage you to be aware that you're not working against your healthcare team. You're just making some suggestions on your care and how you prefer to be looked after, because it's a special time, isn't it, Robyn, for them? So they deserve
it's
this.
your time. It's the mother's time. It's her body. It's her baby. It's her time. And we should be doing the utmost to make that her time within the boundaries of what's safe. Of course, we know that. We don't, want to sound like we're just doing things, because we're not. But we
encourage informed decision making. So hopefully there's a lot of thought process and research gone behind the decisions anyway. And a woman should be trusted to be able to make
midwives are qualified. We are qualified to practice midwifery. And in this country, we're a profession in our own right. And I think in the UK, you are too. The midwives there are too. And so we have the right to practice in what we know and understand is reasonable for the midwife in those circumstances, and that applies to all professionals too. And since we've become so medicalised, institutionalised, policyised, you would know that's my favourite words, the isation syndrome. Since all that's happened, midwives have just lost so much of what their practice is. With beautiful women, our practice is, and if you've got young midwives, we want to be their mentors. We want to be beside them too with the woman's consent.
There's a statistic that's released in the UK. It may have been recently updated, but it was released last year. For every 30 midwives that go through university or vocational training, it's called here, only 29 drop out. So only one.
Wow.
Do we know
why?
Well, it's the paperwork, it's the policies, it's the red tape, isn't it? There's so many. The research does suggest that it's an expensive role to have, parking, the travel, the high intense. They're supposed to be working shifts and they work more hours, they don't get breaks, they don't get good pay. It's horrific.
That's because they believe if they put everybody in hospital, they'll save money. What they've done is created the problem that we have worldwide now.
Yeah, and I really hope the research has continued on that and how community care would save us billions globally.
Absolutely.
And it
And
would
the
really
midwives
prevent.
supported with their team of medical, where we are complementary to each other. We have a complementary relationship. And, I enjoyed those years so much, having those and still to this day, we're buddies, even though we're old, we're buddies.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of value in multi-agency with birth care, pregnancy care, antenatal, postnatal, and that should be one of the things. So let's just reinforce a few of the topics we've just discussed. Preferences, look into your preferences, have a look at the local policy at your healthcare provider, whether that's a trust, a hospital, a centre. That's another thing to consider, your birth options. Where do you want to give birth? Look into what's available for you. Support, so maybe you're looking into having another support person with you, someone that can advocate for you, understand the laws, maybe a doula, maybe a private midwife is an option for you.
Or a partner.
And your partner, and get them involved in this learning, this researching, and this discovery of preferences as well. It's really important that you're both clued up. I'm not sure if that's an Aussie saying or not, but it's definitely a saying over here. Get clued
have the
up.
knowledge. You have the knowledge.
Get
and
the knowledge.
Knowledge is then. Knowledge is easier for the mother to know what she wants than if she has the knowledge. And of course, she'll be reasonable as long as she's not coerced by fear.
Exactly.
She'll be reasonable. She's not going to do things that are going to harm her or her baby, but that has to be a responsibility of the professional, not to coerce by fear.
Yeah. And that, like we said, to reinforce is being given the right information and tools that you can make an informed decision. So it's called BRAIN. That's a global recommendation. Dr. Robyn's spoken about this before. So that's being given the benefits, the risks, and using your instincts and having the alternatives there.
The alternatives,
well. Yes.
Yeah, and also the benefits, the risks, the alternatives, the right to seek another opinion, and the right to say no. They're the major.
So things. important. Yeah. And then within that, you can start working on your preferences. And this is the part that I absolutely love, because it completely changed my world in terms of breastfeeding. Something to really consider, and we talk about this so much. Dr. Robyn has a wealth of information on this in the online program, and we have some resources to introduce you to that as well in our free community. And it is the 3 golden hours. Most of you may have heard of the golden hour. There are different adaptations of this around the world. Dr. Robyn, give us some of your key considerations when it comes to the 3 golden hours. What should women be thinking about?
Well, the primary thing is if the baby's APGAR 7 or above, that the baby belongs with the mother, and it does. And as long as the mother's well, then they belong together. And if anything happens, then the closest to the mother will help with the baby. But the most important thing is that then what it does is activates the baby's skill to survive. So when the baby's ready, not before the baby's ready, it depends whether the mother's had opioids as well, because they can be very sleepy, which we talk about the sleepy baby syndrome that we see frequently, but also just the fact that, the fact that, it's very important to track me again, please. It's very important.
But I think that your point's perfect anyway. But the things to consider within the 3 golden hours. So what
I want the baby to, I want the baby to activate its own survival skills, and it's highly, highly sensitive to smell, to taste, to touch, to movement. So fine motor, gross motor skills to find their way to survive. And you see other mammals doing that in the world too.
Yes. And so the key point of that is to, and this is another thing you talk about in depth with the 3 golden hours, is to avoid forceful handling of your baby and your breast.
No forceful handling, forceful handling, and no interruption to that mother and her baby. Unless she has a problem where she's bleeding or something like that, then of course that comes first. That's without saying in the role of the midwife or the medical practitioner. But it's most important that we take her into consideration. We've done the APGAR score. We're happy with the baby belongs with her, and they work it out together. And we do not interrupt them unless, of course, you're in an operating waiting room and you have to get out. So make every effort for that baby to travel with its mother undisturbed if it's safe to do so. And if not, it travels with the partner, and that the baby comes as quickly as possible back to the mother. But in other circumstances, do not interrupt that time. It is precious time. And if you
when
really
this is
learn
included,
something from it, then you really
yes.
observe it, quietly observe it. It's beautiful.
Oh. And having that included and actually writing that down, communicating your wishes in that sense to your healthcare team makes them more aware that mum would be really not happy if baby was taken for a wash, to put on a hat. If you're just thinking preferences, it's not communicated. So it's really important that we make you aware that you have to actually state that
There's
baby
so much more to it. You do not.
There is. It's really hard to talk about it in such short video.
You do not remove the vernix from the baby's skin. You do not rub a baby. Like I saw one recently, and that poor little baby was roughed up so much.
Yeah. Oh, there's some horrific videos online, isn't there? They're really
let's be gentle, let's be calm, and let the mother decide what she needs to do and when she needs to do it. And then the baby makes its way to the breast, and the 3 golden hours might be the time it's taken the baby to go to the breast. So that will include that, and the baby will feed till it reaches a level of satisfaction from the colostrum and feed from both breasts during that time, and then quietly drift off to sleep. And we do not disturb that baby. We just observe.
I'm so glad that I learned and fully embraced the 3 golden hours with my second born, because it made a world of difference. And thank you so much for your research into that, Dr. Robyn, because it's helping thousands of women worldwide, including your birth preferences. So looking into your options and then implementing the 3 golden hours are the crux of getting off to the best start possible. If you're able, if baby is healthy and you're healthy, it is a really important thing to consider. So there we have it, in a very short, almost condensed session for what we can manage.
My brain goes much wider than that, and it's really hard for me to contain it.
And we've got like a mind map of 1,000 different things that we could talk about, but we do these regularly. So if there's any topics you'd like us to discuss, let us know. And we have spoken about the 3 golden hours plenty of times before. Pain management, we've spoken about birth options, home birth. We've discussed lots of different topics that might be a perfect follow-on video from this. So do let us know if you can't find those. And let us know how you're doing, and if you would like more information, if you want to be prepared. What are you doing to be fully prepared for the birth and
I will try to update that plan as quickly as I can, or that
you are doing so much right now. So we trust that it'll be ready when it's ready. Well, to you all watching, thank you so much. And to the wonderful Dr. Robyn Thompson, always learning and bettering our experiences. Thank you so much.
And thank you to you and your family and all my UK buddies. Thank you so much. And all those beautiful women that I talk with in the UK, they are amazing. Yeah. I talk with them all over the world, but that comes from the beautiful team that are placed across the UK.
Well, our worldwide team now is growing, isn't it? It's very exciting.
Yeah, lovely. We're very, very, very fortunate to have these beautiful women have someone that they can contact.
Yes, and that's a good way to end, actually. The Thompson Method breastfeeding support, we are in local areas now. So locally, we have our directory if you wanted to check out. We have educators, we have practitioners. Thompson Method breastfeeding professionals are near you, hopefully. And we'll leave you with that. If you have any questions, let us know. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening or the day, depending on where you are around the globe. And again, thank you so much, Dr. Robyn. You're an angel.
Thank you, Chelsea.